You're listening to the Culture Junkie podcast, where we go beyond the surface of pop culture.
I'm Keith.
And I'm Xandra. Together, we dive into the craft process and passion that drive today's creators. This is the Culture Junkie podcast.
Today, we're joined by someone who's been quietly shaping the way brands grow and compete in the digital space, Sheldon Poon. From navigating the early shifts in online marketing to building strategies that actually convert in today's crowded, tight digital landscape, Sheldon has developed a reputation for cutting through the noise and focusing on what works. Whether it's performance marketing, brand positioning, or scaling campaigns, he's been at the forefront of helping businesses adapt and win. Today, we're diving into his journey, how it all started, what he's learned along the way, where he sees the industry headed, but most especially, what's next for him. Sheldon, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, listen, it's our pleasure. So tell me, as you know, we're basically in the same business. I think we are talking from different ends, but I mean, how did you get started?
So how do I get started? So this is where we're at now is probably like my third career, really. I graduate. I had the unfortunate luck to graduate in computer science during the dot-com bubble. So if you do the math, you can kind of guess at my age. So I was competing against guys that had like 10 years of experience going for the same junior position. So it just wasn't happening. So I ended up in education for a minute. I ended up teaching, and then I ended up moving to head office at the school board. But during that time, because my background is in computer science, I was always playing with emerging technologies. Even though I absolutely loved my time teaching and loved my time at the high school, I kept on top of the tech side by taking on side projects and working freelance. And Montreal is a small town. It's not like Toronto. So everybody knows everybody else, especially among the English community here. So what ended up happening was I ended up working with the same couple of guys over and over again. One guy that I really enjoyed working with was a guy by the name of Vincent. Him and I got along really, really well. He was incredible when it came to design, and it allowed me to focus on the tech side. So together we just took on a bunch of projects. I got to a point in my career at the school board where I was just kind of like, okay, I think I'm kind of losing my mind here a little bit. I want to make a break for it. Vincent and I had worked on a bunch of projects together, and we said, like, why don't we just combine forces and let's just like give ourselves like a proper name to show to clients that, Vincent and I are doing a thing together now. And I was like, great. So we came up with the name Drive Marketing, which is
there it is.
sign. Yeah. So we came up with Drive Marketing and we started doing websites because that's what we specialized in. And people really enjoyed working with us, but they started signing checks to Drive Marketing, which only existed as a brand on paper, but not in reality. So then we went to the bank and we're like, well, how do we cash these? We're young guys, like we didn't know. So we're like, how do we cash these? And they're like, well, you need a bank account. You need to be registered. So like, okay, so we'll register. So then we registered the company, but we did an incorporation. So we got the bank account under the incorporation. We deposited the checks and we're like, okay, how do we pull this money out? We can't just pull money out of a corporation. So we had to go to an accountant and set up payroll for ourselves. We're like, okay, now we have payroll. And then because people liked working with us, it got to a point where we got more and more clients and we're like, we can't do this by ourselves anymore. So then, well, we have payroll, we have an office, let's just start hiring people. And then bit by bit, we started growing. And at one point we looked around, we're sitting in an office with our staff and looking at accounting and going over stuff with, I think we started a company by accident.
There you go.
So what ended up happening was my business partner, Vincent, my co-founder, he really did not enjoy the management aspect, the dealing with client headaches, dealing with accounting, he just didn't ever see himself running a company. And we had a long talk and he basically just didn't enjoy it anymore because he was getting more and more removed from the day to day and he wanted to just be an artist. So it took about a year of back and forth. I was like, are you sure? And it came at a time when the company was also struggling a little bit and we decided to part ways. He's still a good friend of mine. We still chat. We're on very good terms, but he recognized that the direction that we were going in wasn't for him. Once I kind of lost Vincent, for better or for worse, I realized that I don't have the design chops to keep it up. So, and web was coming to a point where it really was about the artistry of it. So I kind of looked at our clients and I'm like, really, the ones that value our work are valuing it because it brings ROI. So, there's a marketing aspect to it. There's other things that are involved. And nobody builds a website for the joy of building a website. No one's spending money on a website just for the hell of it. So I was very fortunate. The timing kind of worked out that I had started working with this guy Jack, and Jack and I had started playing around with ads online. And him and I remember we went for coffee, and we literally drew out on the back of a napkin where we thought the digital ad space was heading and what the theory was in terms of how do you get these algorithms to perform in the way that we want them to. And this spoke to me more because we were taking an engineering approach to it. So, like I said, my background's in computer science, working with emerging technologies, big data, AI. So, this engineering approach towards ads was much more interesting. And it came at the time when Vincent was leaving. So, Jack ended up coming on board with the team and he became our kind of head of marketing and we started growing it. And bit by bit, we started moving away from web and development and putting those resources into the ad side because I think we got lucky in that we saw the signs early on that ads were moving away from being a kind of Mad Men-esque, like, Draper walking into the room and creating this brilliant campaign. We were moving away from that model and towards something that was more akin to engineering, where you had to gather good data, it had to be accurate, it had to be complete. You're feeding that into an algorithm that is then crunching the numbers, modeling your funnel, and then creating a feedback loop for performance. And that's more of an engineering mindset. And I would say that we were early in the sense that when Jack and I started building this model out, I still think that creatives were doing the heavy lifting. You fast forward to today, and I would say that in the last 18 months, that scale has finally tipped over, and now I would argue that ads is almost a like an 80% engineering problem rather than a creative issue. And because we came in at a time when like today everybody knows that you want to build a business, you got to run Meta ads, you got to run Google ads, but back then it was still new, so people still hadn't caught on to that. People were still doing radio ads, flyers, TV, that sort of thing. So we kind of just we got lucky in a sense that we kind of cut our teeth during a time when this was starting to pick up steam and people didn't really know about it yet. So it was still a lift for us to convince people you got to be online, you got to run ads online. People were still like, yeah, I don't know, no, I never click on ads, so I don't think they work. And that was the feedback we got all the time. You fast forward today, and we're in a very good position because everybody knows that they have to run ads. And the type of clients now, the ad budgets are a little bit smaller. You don't need to have like tens of thousands of dollars per month to invest in a radio or TV ad. You know that you can have a few grand and you can run a very successful campaign on these digital platforms. So that's kind of how I evolved from being in a classroom, teaching, doing freelance stuff, to starting the company by accident, to moving away from web development and moving towards more of an engineering mindset. Towards today, we're doing a lot of performance.
That's really interesting. Just as a slight aside, I too taught in high school, and then I went into hard computer science. I got into hardware and engineering.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and now here we both are.
Yeah, nice. Hardware is one of those things that has always been a black magic box to me because every single time something didn't work on art, especially when you're really digging in. And like, I remember, do you remember? I don't know if you studied this computer science, but you had to like use a patch cable to connect two computers and write the protocol to be able to do the communication. Yeah. I swear my code worked fine and it was a hardware issue, and I will stand by that to this day.
It's
I
funny.
got a faulty wire.
I got my Microsoft engineering credentials in 1997.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So not only did I do it, I've done it through the hard way.
Yeah.
I went through the hardware. There was no USB. There was no plug and play. So it was a totally different thing. Anyway, just a wild coincidence that we've had kind of the similar background.
Yeah.
So tell me something based on just what you said. You said, about the algorithm and how pervasive that is. Are we building brands anymore, or are we just feeding the algorithm?
Both, I would argue. Because here's the thing, right? Like, we are obsessed when it comes to operational efficiency. So we have case studies that show this. We work with, I'm going to name drop, but like we're working with Bench Canada. We're working on their e-com. They're founding Costco winners. Mm-hmm. And in fashion e-com, where the industry average is like a 3.65 return on ad spend, because of the work that we're able to do with training the algorithms properly, we did our numbers for last year. I think we came in at 12, just a little bit over 12 to 1 return on ad spend, which is insane. That's like that's unheard of. So they're very happy with our work. But I do think that part of that, at least, is that brand recognition, right? So it's both. Like, yes, you actually you have to be very technically capable to make sure that you're training the algorithm properly. And that's really what it is today, because these are AI algorithms and you have to understand AI training. You have to have that a little bit of background in how these models work. But I'd be lying if I said that, like, the bench name doesn't automatically give you a sense of like, well, we know who you are already. So that familiarity definitely helps. And when we're working with brands that are not as well known, we always go back to marketing 101, really, which is the attention, interest, desire, action model, right? So that's the idea of the consumer journey funnel that was actually first written about in 1898 or not. That's how far back it goes, that theory.
There you go.
But that's so there's different variations, but the original one is attention or awareness, interest, desire, action. And when we're working with a completely unknown brand, we absolutely have to make sure that the top of funnel is well represented to build the awareness. You cannot just instantly go to bottom of funnel and just run intent ads on Google and just hope that the people will just appear. It won't happen that way. So the entire funnel has to be represented, and a key part of that is brand awareness. So building the brand, building that trust, especially in today's world, people are looking for that authenticity. Anyone who says that it doesn't matter today is fooling themselves, because it absolutely, you will see it in the data, how much cheaper it is to hit your audience, how much more efficient it is, how much better the engagement numbers are, simply because there's been the care to put into building out that brand piece. But you need both pieces to win. That I think is absolutely key.
Well, I think a lot of the clients that we see, I'm going to speak for myself right now, don't have an idea of the base that they have to build in order to build for the brand awareness. There's always someone going, oh yeah, we can turn this around very quickly and grow your brand. But I think, that might be the biggest lie being sold in digital marketing right now, that it's a quick process, that you can open up a store or an online presence, and 3 months from now, you'll just wait for the cash to roll in. So tell me then something, Sheldon. If someone gave you 10K today to build them an ad campaign, what would you do?
So first of all, I think we would probably cut that number in half and spread it over 2 months.
There you go.
So that's the first thing. Because the first thing that we always do is we always have to get a lay of the land. One of the, I think, the misconceptions, so I don't, you must be following the same thing as I am. Like, people are having a meltdown on Reddit about Meta not working all of a sudden the last, I have a few theories about that. But and my team and I have debated about this. One of the theories that I have is that, reading the comments, people are complaining that the ads that they've been running for X number of months have all of a sudden stopped. And I think they're stuck on the old way of using the algorithm. So in the past, what you would do, especially on the Meta platform, you'd go in and you start setting up your client profile. So the old way of doing it, each campaign would basically target like a persona. And based on that persona, you would enter in the demographics, the age, the location, the income, whatever their interests are.
I like to call that the Facebook method.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So that's how you used to do it, right? And then you would run your ad and then you would test. The new way to do it is actually flipping it on its head. And this is what we've been doing. And this is why we're getting very good results, where you need to collect data first and remove all the biases. And that's the thing that is very uncomfortable for people. And that's the difference that it makes. And this is where understanding the algorithm comes in. Essentially, what we do is going back to the 10 grand, we would take 5 grand. And with that, it's enough for us to put together a campaign where we take the contents, going back to the idea of the funnel, right? Awareness, interest, desire, action. Each layer in that funnel needs to be well represented in terms of content. And by content, we need photos, videos, there's primary text, title text. We need all of that. Mm-hmm. And of course, the call to action, the landing page, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
We fit all of that into the library, and we essentially set up Advantage Plus so that Advantage Plus will figure out which audiences resonate with which combination of ads. And then what happens is the K basically is enough for us to collect a month's worth of statistically relevant data for us to be able to pick out the winners and losers. And lo and behold, what ends up usually happening is that even though in the library we're mixing all the content together, we'll see in the campaigns, the campaign that we populated with what we figure is awareness content, lo and behold, there's our awareness group. We didn't tell it what interest. The algorithm went out and tested the ad campaigns, and it found the audience that resonates with the awareness messaging. It will then go out and find the interested parties that are already warmed up to your brand. It will find those bottom of funnel intent. And then what you end up with is a bunch of campaigns that have already gone through the machine learning process, that have already picked out the winners and losers through not just A/B testing, but A to Z testing through all the different combinations of all the different things. And it'll tell you, these are the winning combinations that resulted in the highest ROAS. These are the ones that we'll double down on. All the losers, we kill them off. And then we start the process over again. But in month 2, with that next $5,000, we're now working on efficiency and lowering cost per acquisition and increasing return on ad spend.
So how much do you think marketers are really in charge of this, or are we just reacting to the platforms right now?
I think that's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I don't know.
that's why we're here.
Yeah, that's what we're here. Exactly, right? Like you have a computer science background. How long have we heard that automation is going to take our jobs away, man? It's been like since the
I always say that if a robot could do my job, then go get it. They can, obviously automation will take away repetitive tasks and just boring stuff that I wouldn't personally want to do anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not worried about that. I just find it that, I look at creativity sometimes and I think, wow, that's going to be great. And it goes over like a lead balloon.
Yeah.
You've done that, right? And the other thing is that, you put something up or you try something, you go, I don't know about this. And it's fabulous.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it just totally takes off. I can tell you a quick story. We were just sitting around during the Olympics and watching curling. And my partner just decided she was going to put up a little short about the Canadian double touch thing, just a little poke
Oh,
there.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
listen, 4 million TikTok views. Took it 15 seconds to do it. Doesn't No idea.
That's amazing.
It's that kind of thing. So, when we talk about that kind of thing, what's a boring strategy that's consistently pays off?
Consistently, I think our strategy is when we approach content, like everybody talks about AI, like
Yeah.
we obviously use AI constantly, but there's 2 caveats to that. One, when most agency owners I've talked to, they talk about AI, they talk about OpenClaw, they talk about ChatGPT, Claude Code, all this stuff. They're talking about generative AI. I'm like,
Yes.
that's cool. We're using predictive AI. The AI that predicts weather patterns, stock markets, and who to target for ads. That's the AI that we're using. The predictive models, Advantage Plus on Meta, PMax campaigns on, and the second point is that when it comes to a predictive model, it's only as good as the training data, right? Again, like leaning back on computer science background. So
Sure.
we know that the data has to be 2 things. And this is the mistake that we often see. It needs to be complete. You'd be amazed how often people just install the default tag and go, that's good enough for me, but it's not complete because you're not capturing the entire user journey. And then it's not accurate. So when we compare our return on ad spend, we're not comparing to what Google and Meta is reporting. We talk to the accounting team and the finance team to say, how accurate are our numbers?
I think you've
That's
hit,
how
I
we know.
think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's got to be clean, garbage in, garbage out has always been one of the things we talk about.
Yeah.
So listen, what do you think? Which platform is quietly winning right now in the marketing space?
I don't know, man. You just saw the news just came out, right? Meta is going to overtake Google or has overtaken Google on the ads side for the first time. So, I mean, by pure numbers, obviously like Meta just beat out Google, but it's anybody's guess right now because it's a bit of an arms race with all these different AI platforms. Everybody's carving out their own niche. I don't know, man. That's a good question. I don't have an answer.
Well, I think I have an answer to my own question now that
Yeah.
I've heard you. I think, we have to keep in mind that platforms are demographic specific.
Yeah, that's true.
You can have the world's greatest, Facebook ad campaign, but if you're trying to sell something to 20-year-olds, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
So, as somebody who is in charge of a 20-year-old, I know we have nothing in common as far as our online habits. Absolutely nothing. So it really is, part of the special sauce that I feel like that agencies like we both have to understand who the client is and who their audience is, and then determine the platform in which way to drive revenue. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right about that.
Yeah. So do you think AI is making us smarter or just a little lazier?
Oh, it's definitely making us lazier, no doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. Even so, like I still, as much as my team hates it when I do this, I still get involved in the development side every once in a while just to get my hands dirty and just to roll my sleeves up. And like I cannot, for the life of me, diagnose a backend problem in our code anymore. I just give it to Codex. I give it to ChatGPT. I said, this is the description of the problem. Tell me where it is.
Really?
And then
Yeah.
I'll evaluate its correctness. It's often still missing the mark because of missing context or whatever, but it's definitely made me lazier. And like, I'm pretty sure my coding ability has gone down even further than my team would like.
Never being a code guy, I don't think you have to worry. There's plenty of ways around that now. So tell me, then what do you think separates someone who knows marketing from someone who actually drives revenue?
Oh, there's a lot, I think. This is my own personal bias, so like, grain of salt. I think for whatever reason, there's an idea floating around kind of the entrepreneur influencer space that, oh, if you know how to run Google or Facebook ads, like you should start an agency and you should do this and that and you're gonna be above it. But I think there's like been a flood of that, right? And I think that most of those people are just kind of buying into this dream that just doesn't exist. And I think our market has become very crowded in terms of noise of people who are not to say they're not serious, but I think they don't have that background. They don't have that deep thinking in today's world because everything is so algorithmically driven, right? If you don't have some sort of deeper understanding of fundamentally how these systems work, I think you're at a huge disadvantage. Yeah.
So if you had to start from ground zero today, what would you learn first? Would you go to the AI kind of side, or would you go to the design and composition side?
I probably would have went into the trades.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
But I always wonder, so what skill do you think is going to matter way more in 2 years than it does today?
I think people skills. Like honestly, I think so. Going back to your other question, right? Like, is AI making us dumber or lazier? What I see today, again, very biased because I'm surrounded by this kind of entrepreneur echo chamber. Everybody is trying to solve human problems by throwing an AI agent at it, and I think that's just the wrong way to do it, right? Like I think that if your people want to connect with people, I don't think that's rocket science. If somebody is choosing a vendor, if somebody is thinking of partnering with somebody, they want to go out and grab dinner. They want to go and have a coffee with them. They want to hang out with them. They want to get to know the person. I'm seeing a lot of these solutions out there that is trying to replace that human interaction with this weird botic AI thing that has no soul. And I think the more that people rely on that as a crutch, the more we're going to see the importance of that human interaction, that human connection, that ability to have these conversations become more and more important.
Well, that being said, what's coming that most people aren't ready for?
That's a good question. I don't know. Right now, there's so much happening. Again, like I hate to make this about AI, but like there is so much happening with the AI space that there's so many things that people are just like not prepared for. I think if again, this is all cutting edge tech, so who knows where it's gonna go.
Right.
But in terms of the energy race, right? You have satellite evidence that China's making a real play towards fusion. If they crack commercial fusion, that's going to disrupt all the energy space. You couple that with AI technology, which is very power hungry. So now you have unlimited AI. You connect that up with all the defensive capabilities, with the cybersecurity threats, and now you have unlimited power feeding a massively power hungry AI with unlimited resources to be able to go out and attack infrastructure however it wants. I think that combination of things makes a very, very scary landscape in terms of cybersecurity and tech, and it's going to be disruptive in ways that we don't yet understand. I think that's something that's a little bit beyond the scope of marketing,
A
obviously,
little
but
bit.
yeah, yeah, obviously, I think that affects everything. And like in terms of to bring it back to like a more business centric ideology, right? Like any country that has that resource at its disposal is gonna win this like AI race. And like it or not, the way that business is going, even if you're still maintaining authenticity and you're still maintaining a human touch and you're still maintaining all of the fundamental stuff, having that power of automation behind an unlimited AI is still going to give you that operational efficiency that is going to be very, very hard to fight against.
Well, I've been around for a long time, and for most of my life, commercial fusion's been this
I know, 10 years away. Yeah.
just around the corner. That and the matter antimatter warp drive. But anyway, once once we get one, I'm sure we'll get the other one quickly after. Anyway, so do you think AI has caught a lot of businesses off guard? I know that everyone talks about it and everyone thinks they're using it, but I think you think they seem to be missing the boat on how they should be implementing it, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Like one of the big talking points, like I had this debate really with my head of business development. He's like, we gotta push this idea that like, we're AI enabled and AI enablement and all that stuff. And I was like, well, we do tons of AI, but we do the real AI. And I told him that like, I don't want to use it as a buzzword, even though it's something that's there that everybody's talking about, even though we do it for automation. We've been doing automation since day one. So this is just a continuance of that long path of automation. But yeah, I definitely think it's catching a lot of people off guard. I have friends who are working in other agencies, not necessarily owners. And one of my buddies told me that like, yeah, he's flustered. He's like, my boss just told me use AI. He's like, I don't know anything about AI. I'm like, well, what does that even mean? What did they want you to do? He's like, I don't know. They just kept saying use AI, use AI. So I think there's a lot of that happening right now, especially in larger corporate structures where the CEO and the C level is saying use AI. The middle managers are going, the CEO wants to use AI, and they're just passing the buck. And some poor guy who's at the bottom of the chain, who's sitting at his desk, is pulling his hair out, trying to figure out what AI enablement means for their organization. And really what it means to the higher ups is that I want you to automate yourself out of a job. And the last time I sat in like a networking group, I remember this weird situation where like everybody that introduced themselves, the first thing they said, like, we're an AI consultant, we're building AI agents, we're an AI first company, we're AI this, we're AI that. I'm like, oh, that means that this has already jumped the shark. Like this is,
Eh,
yeah, it's the new blockchain. Exactly. So I'm like, okay, now's the time to move away from this messaging because it's
Yeah.
way beyond every consultant out there is now an AI enablement expert.
Well, it's funny because whenever we go, do a presentation or somebody wants us to potentially run a campaign, they go, "Wow, do you use AI?" And we have people in house who use AI, and I go, "What do they use it for? Spell check, right?" I mean, and a lot of people really, I feel they conflate artificial intelligence with actuarial information.
Mm,
All
yep.
they do is parse numbers and collate. They go, "This has the best chance of working." They're just actuaries, and I don't mind that. But, I think that takes a lot of emphasis off the creative aspects of the
Mm,
campaign,
yeah.
because if everyone's using AI, like you said, the human element is what's going to stand out. And I think we're already at that singularity where anyone can make a thumbnail. Anyone can write a report. Anyone can create a campaign, by asking one of the robots to do it, but it's not necessarily good. You don't, and when I say you, I mean the person who's just using, they don't know if it's good or not good. They
Yeah,
just know
exactly.
this is what they have.
Yeah, they were told to use AI, they used AI. I think so. I
Mhm.
don't know if you've come across this yet, but I'm waiting for the next client conversation where the person is going to ask, so AI is great. What are you guys doing by hand?
Yeah, that'll be great. I'd be pleased to have that conversation. So I'm going to ask you a question. So what are you building right now that people should pay attention to?
Funny enough, so like okay, so all this talk with AI, right? Like I personally have been playing around with OpenClaw.
With which?
OpenClaw. I don't know if you
Oh,
know OpenClaw. Yeah. So OpenClaw is interesting because it's nothing that crazy when it comes to agentic AI. It's just the packaging is nice because it's a Git project. It kind of came from the community. It's open source. It ticks a lot of the boxes that I like as my computer science background. And I like the fact that you can kind of mix and match like the different models across different companies. You're not locked into like Anthropic or OpenAI. So I kind of like playing around with that. And I was able to build, I took one of our SOPs that I normally ask our interns to run. And I did the math and I was like, okay, it typically takes the intern about like 3 hours. So that's my benchmark. And I know what we pay our interns. So I was like, okay, that's the number that I have in my head. And about probably an afternoon to get the OpenClaw to be able to go through that SOP successfully.
okay.
But once I got it working, it took it about 5 minutes and it cost me about $5 in tokens. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. The caveat to that though is I didn't build anything that was production ready. It's built on a house of cards because the next time I tried to run it, it didn't run the same. And you can't have that. When I ask the interns to do it, it's the same every time. It's a human that's doing it. They know. So that was super interesting, but it actually made me double down on not using AI automation tools. So a lot of the people I talk to, what they've been doing is they're like, oh, OpenClaw is great, Claude Code is great, Claude Dispatch is great. They sick it on their Facebook ads and they get it to start automating the creation of the campaigns. What's been happening in the last, I'd say 2 weeks, Meta is shutting down accounts like crazy, aggressively. Anyone who's caught basically using an AI automation tool, your account is getting suspended. You're losing access to your clients. Campaigns that are actively running suddenly are running without an admin. Like, it is a disaster out there.
And we all know what happens if you lose access to your account on a Meta platform.
Oh, it's a disaster. It's a killer. Like, you can wipe out a company if it's not set up properly by doing that. So I look around and I'm like, oh man, because I built this and because I saw what a house of cards it was, and because it didn't meet an engineering standard that I had in my head, I said no to the team. And that's protected us. So
you're doubling down on the human aspect of it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of the reason we get the results that we get is because I tell my clients this very openly. Like, even if it's not a senior strategist, we have at least a junior who's trained with a specific set of instructions to check every single client, every single account on every single platform, minimum once a day, to make sure that spend is good, it's not running off the rails, the data looks good, everything's connected up. And the moment there's a red flag, it's sent to my team. These are all very boring manual processes that are tried and true. And every single brain that's working in my team, I would take the brain of one of our interns over the brain of an AI agent any day of the week.
Awesome. So tell me then, Sheldon, what does winning look like for you at this stage?
Honestly, I'm pretty happy with where we're at. Just kind of need to put our heads down and keep delivering good results for our clients. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not even sure. I think I should be probably thinking bigger, but I don't know. Other than getting some new clients and having some interesting people to work with, I think we're in a good spot.
All right. So I'm just going to ask you a couple quick questions before we wrap up here. This has been fabulous. What's the most overrated platform?
What's the most overrated platform? Yeah. Oh my God. How much time do you have?
If you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one, I mean, Grok is like now just going down the drain. Yeah. I don't know, man. There's I think a lot of these platforms, they each have their value. I don't know which one would be considered overrated. I think the overall idea that we're all going to be replaced by AI agents is overrated. I don't think that's a reality, especially when you start peeling back how these systems work. I think a lot of these things that are we're seeing it in real time. I think OpenAI, was way overinflated, and I think Anthropic is now eating their lunch. Even when I was playing with OpenClaw, so I was going on the cheap. So I was like, okay, let me try it with the OpenAI's cheapest model, because I didn't want to spend a lot of money on this, to be honest. And when I ran OpenClaw on the cheapest OpenAI model, I couldn't get it to do anything. It couldn't even figure out its own configuration. Right. So then I said, okay, let me switch it over to Anthropic and let me try the Sonnet 4. I think it was 4.6.
Big difference.
Big difference. It's like a light bulb went off, and all of a sudden it was answering when I switched it over to Sonnet, I was going through the SOP. I was trying to connect up two systems that don't have APIs and they only have web interfaces. So I said, okay, you're going to have to launch a browser and click on this and click on that. And it got stuck. And I said, is there any way you can take a screenshot or you can describe what you're seeing? And it sent me a VNC link that I was able to remote log into its desktop.
Live?
Yeah, live. Yeah, it's great. And this is on my laptop. This is on a $200 Dell that I picked up as extra garbage. So on my own Dell laptop, it was running in the background on my machine a virtual desktop that it gave me a VNC link to log into so it could show me what it was doing. Then logged in, I said, oh, you see the icon there? Click on that. And I saw it click on it. And then it said, okay, thank you. I can take it from here. And then I got booted out.
Yeah, finally, compliance.
Yeah. And then it did the rest of the SOP. So that's what it was able to do with Sonnet. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then I looked at how much that cost me and I was like, well, let's switch that out. So I went back to OpenAI. and I switched it to the highest GPT because I was like, well, it's got to be at least as good.
Right.
And it was terrible. I gave it the same instructions, and it got stalled. It got confused. It got stuck. It just wasn't able to do it. And I was like, oh, that for me personally was a moment that was like, oh my God, OpenAI is done.
It's
Like,
not
and
how
Anthropic.
it says. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you look at the news, like fast forward a couple of weeks, you look at what's happening now. Sam Altman's having a meltdown. They've not been able to secure, I think, the investment that they wanted. Their ads play completely went down the drain. They went from we're gonna cure cancer to like we're gonna run ads more efficiently. Like, I don't know, man. OpenAI, I think, is not
Yeah.
is not doing so hot.
I was waiting for the cancer cure. All right. So,
Yeah.
Sheldon,
Well, we all were. Yeah.
listen, what's one thing you wish clients understood?
I wish they could better cut through the noise. Think that marketing in 2026 has become so much of an engineering problem that for the average business owner, it's hard to understand what's real and what's fake. There's such a learning curve, right? I don't know if you had this experience, but when I was studying computer science, there was concepts that were just blurry, and then all of a sudden it's like a light bulb switches, and you have that, oh my God, I get it now. That is such a difficult thing to achieve when you're not, you're dedicating your time just studying this thing. And it's hard to cut through that noise to show that what we're doing is authentic and what this influencer saying is not. And that confusion, I think, is the biggest issue that we're seeing right now.
Yeah. Listen, Sheldon Poon, this has been a fabulous conversation. Love to talk another time. Thanks for being on the Culture Junkie podcast, and good luck in all your endeavors.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. I think next time you and I should just trade war stories about teaching. I think that should be our next.
100%. All right. We'll talk soon.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks.